But this one is wild. Bro, we have covered a whole bunch of AI stuff. Now we're getting into AI voicing, AI voice acting. And I have a personal experience with this as well. This is posted on Twitter by Nick Mayer, and they go by Nick. Nick writes, getting dropped by my agency for refusing an AI voice model job. Fun time. First off, that is fucked up as hell. So Nick adds, yeah, man, quote, it's okay if you sell your voice forever. No one will know it's you, end quote. You can shove that 100K into hell. So here is the casting call. It reads, one of our clients, a well-known tech company, is casting for a new text-to-speech TTS/synthesized voice/machine learning non-union project. The intended usage will be to create synthesized voices as part of a public-facing tech product in a voice assistant capacity. There will be as many as 100 talent cast for this project. This project is an AI voice model used to create a database of voices for them to use freely. In turn, my voice would be on file to be used endlessly with whatever developer/company they partner with, and I would not see any revenue from future projects. My voice is being used for AI and machine learning is not something I'm comfortable with, and exactly what the voice actor strikes were for. I appreciate the opportunity, but will have to pass. Thanks, Nick. The non-union is a bit of a red flag to me too, because every time I see non-union, I'm like, and they reply, hi, Nick. You do realize that this is about 100K? Your voice wouldn't even be distinguishable. You don't even know what the product is. We have somebody working on the same project already. We can't divulge the name. Redacted said that if you're turning down a high five-figure to low six-figure job, then you're probably with the wrong agency. The way they responded is crazy. That's wild. Nick continues, may as well drop the other two screenshots. Such an insane way for an agent to speak to a client, by the way. This is a response, and the response reads plain and simple. If for a buyout of high five figures, i.e. 80 to 90K, low six figures, 100K to 200K, you are willing to sell your voice, which is not like your face or your voice with your name attached to it, does not impinge on your earning potential in any way. Nor did you call to have a discussion to hear my logic or point of view. Then I am the wrong agent for you, and you should seek another agent, and we should part ways amicably. Dude, that's the wrong sorry. You are a smart guy, but you are still a smart young guy, and you truly have to learn to pick your battles. I have been nothing but patient since I signed you, and you have produced zero materials for me to promote you with, and I still invested my time in all who work for the company to get you a dollar. All of that company time is an investment we are willing to make in new talent, provided they meet us halfway. The agent is flaming Nick for being young, in quotes, right? And dropping like the most grammatically incorrect email you could possibly see. And Nick responds, I am very well researched into the space of AI, as I was part of the strikes that left artists out of work for over a year. Feeding any amount of myself into an AI model is against my morals, and I share that sentiment with many voice acting colleagues. While I may not be recognizable or may have plausible deniability, the last thing I will do is sacrifice my moral standing for a paycheck. There are some battles that are easier fought by sitting out. Your time is greatly appreciated, and I'm thankful for the work you've put in as my agents. With that being said, I agree it's best if we part ways amicably. Nick. This is wild. I have a bunch of like sense to add to this. So one, why is the agent flipping shit and crashing out? Okay, I will tell you why. It is because the agent is missing out on a ton of money because Nick said no. Nick is completely in his right to say no, and I largely would have said no too. The way talent agents work, okay, is they bring their influencer or their creator brand deals. When the creator signs and completes the brand deal, the agent will take a percentage of the earnings. The standard is 20%. It can vary anywhere from 10 to 30%, honestly, in the industry, but the standard is 20%. So hypothetically, right, if Nick were to sign that deal for 100K for voice acting, the agent would get a 20% cut. Allegedly, right? Whatever the percentage is. Hypothetically, let's use 20% because that's industry standard. Because Nick said no, the agent is losing out on 20K. That is why the agent is hella mad, because they saw it as a big money opportunity. And because their client said no, their influencer, Nick, said no, they didn't get access to all that money. And I guess maybe they thought they could kind of like strong arm Nick into saying yes, which is like a really shitty way to behave as an agent. But the agent clearly is more interested in their own values and trying to make money than Nick's personal values and prioritizing their creator. I would be hella mad if my agency did this to me. Like, I'm signed to both a talent agency and a management agency, and if either one of them tries to strong arm me into something that I'm morally against doing, I would be angry. More tea, because I kind of had this happen to me too. I talked about this earlier on stream, but this is allegedly a brand that I have worked with trained AI on my voice and then used it in an ad. I say alleged, and I have not released the name of the company yet, nor have I showed you guys the ad, because it's hard to prove. Unless I saw them stick my voice into AI or they admitted to it, it's not something that's going to be easy to prove, unfortunately. But the thing is, my talent agency basically reached out to me and was like, hey, this company wants to like work with you again. They want to like use your video for ads. How much would you charge for this? And I was like, oh, this is how much, da 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 da. And they came back to me and they gave me a link and they're like, wait, it looks like they already started using your video in ads without us signing a contract to agree. And then I opened the video and it's not me. It's not my video. It is not my computer. It's not my hands. And the voice is not me, but it sounds like me. The voice has my inflections on how I talk. I would say that I have a pretty unique voice. People recognize me without even seeing me based on my voice alone. So maybe I do, right? That's what I've been told anyways. Maybe I'm full of shit. But the inflections were like me. The way it enunciates words, it's like me. Because I sometimes like, I kind of have like I feel like a crunchy way of pronouncing words. The pitch is the same as mine. My voice is on the deeper side for women. All of that sounds like me. The pitch, the tone, the inflections. The only thing is the pacing of the way it speaks doesn't sound like me. Like I have a specific way that I pace my sentences when I talk, and the AI doesn't do that. So, and it has like a robotic sound to it. I don't know if I can show you guys without implicating anything. Let me see if I can, because the ad basically will say the company name. You can just hear this part. You're doing it wrong. I see a ton of people streaming all day and I'm only showing you that segment because it'll like say the name. Doesn't that sound like me? Doesn't that sound like me? My talent agent thought it was me. That's when you know it's cooked because they work with me a lot. It's not me. Yeah, it sounds like I'm talking to the shittiest mic you've ever seen, but be a content creator, but you're doing it wrong. I see a ton of people streaming all day and that's why I was weirded out because it sounds a lot like me. I know we're derailing, but there's two worlds where there could be some gray area. The world number one, or I guess three options. One, they found somebody that sounds just like me. A little odd because I don't think it's very likely because the way I speak is just pretty unique, but that's option one. Option two is that at some point I recorded this audio for them and they edit it to shit somehow. And I didn't remember. And option three is that somewhere in the contract from the previous times I've worked with them, I signed away my likeness and my rights to my voice without realizing. I don't think that's the case because my agency also reviews my contracts for me. 3 people have looked at the contract. So the odds that happens pretty low could be possible. It's not me. That is not me. Yeah, and it sounds a little robotic, but it freaked me out when I heard it because it sounds so much like me that I was creeped out. There is a video accompanying it. It is not my video. There's a laptop that I don't own in the video. There's no face in it. It's just a hand pointing at a computer, which is not my hand and it's not my computer. I have not said their name yet for those 3 plausible deniability reasons that I mentioned, okay? Because it's not confirmed yet, but my talent agency is privately talking to the company. But here's the thing, and this is like the reason why I'm telling you this, because this just happened to me too, is tying into the Nick situation. It's for many, many things, right? Because this company using my voice in their ad, you might be like, oh, it's just a voice, right? Like they didn't steal your face, they didn't steal your videos, it's just your voice. If allegedly that is my voice that was AI was trained on, because that's not me. It is still part of my brand and my likeness. My voice is my property and you guys can recognize my voice. So if I am vouching for a company or I'm vouching for a product, you don't even have to see my face. If you hear me vouching for it, you're going to be like, oh, that's Kat Liente. She endorses this brand. She endorses this product. Except it's not me because it was allegedly AI. That is where the tricky issue comes in because they are using your likeness and they're profiting off of it. Because again, this is not me trying to gas myself up, okay? This is just the obvious, okay? With my brands will give credibility to the product I am vouching for and it will get them more sales, right? If they're a brand new product or something, I don't know, right? I'm just throwing out examples, but if they have a new product or something, if you're not familiar with it, you're like, oh, what's this? Is this trusted? Da 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 da. But then if you hear my voice vouching for it, you're gonna be like, oh, but Kat backs this product. Kat vouches for this product. So because I trust her content, I will look into this product that you might not have been interested in looking into before. I've done that. Like there have been clothing brands that I'm like suspect of buying from, but then I see like a girl that I follow that I know and she's wearing it. I'm like, okay, the quality can't be that bad if she got it, right? Like it doesn't look bad. It looks good. It looks really cute on her. So then because she's like displaying it and stuff, I'm like, oh, I feel more comfortable now to buy it. The thing is, it's hard to prove this. But yeah, so that's why it's like they're profiting off of my likeness because my likeness will drive them more sales. And again, it's a usage of my alleged likeness that I did not consent to. That is where the issue comes in. So going back onto this whole Nick AI voice situation, I can completely see the hesitancy in taking this deal. So a lot of people might also be like, wow, Nick must be dumb to not take a 100K deal, right? Look, okay. Obviously, if you're in a situation where you really need the money, I'm not gonna fault you if you needed like 80K to pay bills, pay rent, medical bills, whatever. You do your thing. Like, get your bag. I'm not going to judge you for you making choices to keep yourself alive. Okay. I'm not gonna judge you for that. But if we are in a position where you're not desperate for money, so you have the privilege of choice, right? Because if ends are really tight, sometimes you're strong armed into taking deals and doing things you don't really want to. But if you have the privilege of choice because you're in a much better financial situation, I can completely see why Nick said no. Because if you break it down financially, because some people will like to argue, oh, it's 100K, right? 100K USD, if the agent has the standard rate of 20%, the agent will take 20K. So Nick will then get 80K, $80,000. You're going to be like, it's still a lot of money. It's a great yearly salary for a lot of places in the US. I do agree. But you also have to think about all the other repercussions that could come in with this. Nick is basically going to sell away his likeness in perpetuity. So in perpetuity means forever. Okay. And selling your likeness forever is very expensive. You have to think for the long term. We have to take into account the fact that Nick is a content creator. So he has a brand. He has a likeness that is his brand is worth money. The brand of Nick Meyer is worth X amount. I don't know how to price him, right? But he is worth money, just his brand alone. So you have to take that into account. Like the brand Pokimane, the brand BTS, right? All of these brands have a value to it. So Nick has a brand. His voice is also, in my opinion, pretty notable too, right? He has an image of brand. It is worth money. So you now have to extrapolate how much his brand is going to be worth over X amount of years. This is why when you sell in perpetuity likeness and usage, it's very tricky to price it. It's very hard because we're not even taking into account how much Nick is worth today, but we have to take into account Nick's potential growth as a creator. Nick could go viral in 6 months and his worth could skyrocket from a worth of like, I don't know, hypothetically $2,000 for an ad on TikTok to 100K for an ad, one ad, right? We have to take into account the potential future growth of his brand as well when it comes to pricing in perpetuity. And then this one is even worse of a deal because they're not clear on what they're going to use his voice for, right? I've sold my likeness in perpetuity for, and let me give you some context. I have sold a 15-second video vouching for a brand that I absolutely love and that I use on a daily basis for 10K. It was a 15-second video that I did not edit. I don't know what they used it for. I have no idea. But I know what I gave them. I know what I said in that 15-second clip. I knew exactly what it was. I knew what they were going to get. I sold that for 10K. But yeah, so imagine, guys, imagine if a 15-second clip, okay, of me vouching for a company that I love, I already know this company, that sold for 10K. Imagine what your entire voice would sell for. Because again, that'll be what Nick is selling. His whole voice. His whole like vocal identity, essentially. Does that word even make sense? But that is what he's selling. So if what I sold was for 10K, one video, 15 seconds, imagine what this is worth, right? It's worth a lot. His voice is worth a lot. And again, he has no idea what they're going to use it for. They could take his voice and use his voice to then vouch for AI ads, right? They could use his voice and make it sound like it was him and have AI Nick say, oh, AI is great. AI art is great. Like, da 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 da, right? He's selling the entire likeliness to his voice. 100K is cheap, bro. So this is why I'm like telling you all of this just to add context because some people might be like, that's a lot of money. But with the context of understanding all of this, the fact that they can use his voice for anything, they can use his brand likeness and identity to vouch for anything, crypto, the dark web, the devil's lettuce, steak, Trump, anything, right? That is what he's essentially selling. The entire likeliness of his voice. 100K, I would say maybe like 10 mil, we could talk. I just wanted to add the extra context so it makes sense for people who don't operate in the influencer marketing industry, because it may not make sense if you don't operate in this industry. But I do a lot of educational content about influencer marketing and stuff like that, and I'm pretty transparent with finances and stuff. So I'm trying to like tell you all of this so that it's more clear that 100K is actually not a lot of money once you take into account everything. So here's what some commenters had to say. Fatal, Love Fatal says, this is effing insane, bro. Elena EXE says, proud of you for holding firm because what the F. And Epic Green Goose writes, quote, "You don't even know what the product is," end quote. LMAO, yes, that's part of the problem. They can put your voice on some despicable shit and you can't say no. NRJHXX writes, "This project is for text-to-speech, which is used to help disabled people and others who can't read documents. I feel like it's very privileged for you to turn down 6 figures because you don't want to partner with those trying to increase accessibility." Onto the accessibility comment though, right? The thing is, like, text-to-speech is used for accessibility and it can be used for some fucked up shit too. So that's the thing. Like, unless they explicitly stated, like, hey, this is what we're gonna use your voice for. Like, we're gonna use your voice as a text to speech for people who are hard of hearing, etc. Right? Unless any of that is explicitly written out and like that is the only realm your voice would be used for. Like, of course, I'm sure Nick would be hella down. I would be hella down for that, but you just can't guarantee that because they didn't explicitly state that. I also get the whole you're like unwilling to work on something that could help disabled people. I get that, but the thing is, okay, again, you have to understand it from the influencer industry perspective, where companies are very malicious and they are likely very scammy. Like, assuming that the company is only going to use your voice for good reason is a very naive assumption because they likely will not. I've been a creator for over 6 years now. In my personal experience, more times than not, companies will take advantage of you. More times than not. Again, I'm telling you right now, I work with a company so many times. I've met them in person so many times. And what do I see? An ad with an AI voice that sounds suspiciously like me, you know, like it's sus. This is the other thing too, because this is again the pancakes and waffle argument. When people say I don't like waffles, so then you're in the comments like, well, what about pancakes though? You know, like pancakes, it's not the same thing. Text to speech can also help disabled individuals. It can also be used for really bad things. And we don't know what this text to speech is going to be used for. Nick never explicitly said, F disabled people, I'm not going to do this, right? That was not his point. His whole point was, you are going to use AI and train it on my voice, and I do not consent to that idea because I do not morally agree to this. He does not morally agree to AI being trained on his voice. Not helping disabled people. That's apples and oranges, guys. River writes, "I'ma just say it, bro. You might as well take it and let them use their voice. They're just gonna steal it and not pay you and face no fines or jail time anyways, like any other AI company that continuously commits illegal acts without repercussions." Which is again why it's like really tricky. With like my situation, I don't know how I can legally go after them. There's like plausible deniability. I mean, I guess I could sue them and then legally they would have to show how they got the audio. It is what it is. Susie, also, just because somebody wants to be compensated for their work doesn't mean they don't agree with helping others. Everyone's situation is different and they might need the money for whatever reason. So Isaac comments, "Way to hold your ground even when 100K is on the table. Amazing morals. Now drop the at." And Nick writes, "Lottery mentality. I've survived on 12K a year. I don't need to undermine all voice actors for the check. They can choke," which we love. And then Nick adds, "All right, trying to keep up, but all my materials are on my website. I make audios for TriQuinn and play D&D, go crazy." I didn't even think about this. This commenter Sene Wolf writes, Sene Wolf? "Yeah, 100K to be another indistinguishable AI voice. How's that going to look on a resume during an interview? Quote, oh yeah, I let these people use my voice to sell frog hoodies and camera gimbals. Nah, I haven't been able to find more work since." End quote. That is another thing too, right? Your future options could also be harmed from your association with AI. And then another commenter writes, "Nah, that's just what he did. He got dropped, so he lost out on dozens of future projects. The AI voice wouldn't even sound like him. It was gonna get spliced with 100 other voices to become one AI voice. The claim that he will no longer be able to use his voice after is silly." And Nick writes, "If this agency was booking me dozens of projects, I don't think our partnership would have ended in a petty crash out email. I don't want to audition against my own AI voice mashup. Thanks, bro." Yeah, you're competing with your own AI self.
Well, absolutely. So just to give a rundown on what happened, I've been signed with this said agent. It was primarily a commercial agent at first, on-camera commercial, and around 6 months into our contract, they took over as my voiceover representation. And my agency contacted me with an audition. And typically, part of the reason why I was a super big fan, most auditions come from a couple of places. So Casting Networks is one of the websites. Actors Access is one of the websites. And there's a couple others like Backstage, but those are less, I would say, exclusive. They're pretty easy to access. And so every audition they had gotten me was from there, which for context, all of those auditions, 95% of them are open call. So, well, not open call. So there'll be open listings. So you can just apply yourself and they'll ask for an audition. So they were essentially doing something I could do if I took 20 minutes out of my day every day to apply for everything new. I received one of the very first independent auditions from them, which meant that they had some sort of business relationship with the company that was casting. So typically, the exclusivity that is provided by an agent is from the ability to have contacts with those casting directors, because HBO Max, Apple TV, Netflix, they're not typically casting from those open call websites. They're casting from a general open network of their clients, their agency clients. So this was the first time that I saw that they were kind of, they were putting my name out there, putting their feet on the ground. And I opened up the audition and just to quote the cast.
I'm also going to throw in some 2 cents here. Like, a big benefits of having an agent is them bringing you deals you won't be able to get on your own. Because why the fuck would you sign to an agent that's going to take a percentage of your earnings if it's something you can do yourself, you know? So Nick here saying that, oh, his agent was just like applying him to things that he could apply to himself. That kind of defeats the purpose of an agent. You know what I mean? Like, again, like I said, I don't know about like voice acting and stuff like that, but at least in the influencer industry, a standard is 20%. So why would I want you to take 20% of a sponsorship deal if I'm like filling out my own forms? You know what I mean? Like, a big appeal is that, hey, the agency has brand connections, has relationships, and they can bring me deals that I would not be able to get on my own. And then the other one is them doing the labor, you know, like reaching out, communicating, hopping on the Zoom call so I don't have to hop on it, etc. But that is like a big appeal. Bit of a red flag. The agent wasn't really doing that for a while.
Casting call itself from the thing you put from the tweet you pulled up. Casting call. One of our clients, a well-known tech company, is casting for a new text-to-speech (TTS) synthesized voice machine learning non-union project. The embedded usage will be to create synthesized voices as a part of a public-facing tech product and a voice assistant capacity. There will be as many as 100 talent cast for this project. So I'm not a fucking idiot. So when I read this, I was like, so AI. Obviously, because the AI, for those who don't know, is obviously a huge red flag in the entertainment industry, obviously, but especially for voice actors, when you put speech and machine learning next to each other, alarms go off. But they avoided using the phrase AI because they knew what would happen. Right. So I got this audition and I was like, man, this is fucking AI. So I get on the phone with my buddy Annalisa. She's the voice, she's in Honkai Star Rail and Firefly and everything like that. Yeah, she's the voice of Firefly, I think is her name. But she's on Netflix, does a lot of cartoons, and then their friend Val is in Overwatch and stuff. She also hopped in and was like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, I'm not insane. This is AI and this is terrible, and I should punch my agents in the face. And they're like, yeah. So I respond to the audition, I think, in the most professional manner possible, because I don't want to do it. And I'll tell you before I get into that, the compensation, by the way, was listed as $100,000.
Yeah, big payday for, you know.
Which is, voice actors get pennies. Right. Of the entertainment industry, the most underpaid people are extras and voice actors. Right. Because voice actors, there are fewer jobs. It's a more exclusive circle of individuals that all work. So it's very hard to make anywhere close to that in a year, let alone 3 years as a voice actor.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with Scott McNeil, voice of the original Piccolo and like Waspinator and Wolverine, legend. Yeah. This was like 10, 12 years ago. I had this conversation with him at a small convention in Baton Rouge. And what they do to supplement their income for a lot of like anime cartoon voice actors is the convention circuit, you know, selling autographs and posters and appearances, like the speaking fees. Like that's where that supplemental income is.
Yes. I mean, in general, the second most important agent for a voice actor after a talent agent is a convention agent, because those signings that you're doing, the speeches that you're giving, the panels you're doing, that is your income. That is the only thing that you get that is semi-permanent, that is semi-stable. Because voice acting, even for the greats, even for the biggest names you know of in voice acting, they are still pounding the fucking pavement. Yep. And that is a labor of love, far more than a labor of income. And so, obviously, if you throw in the fact that they're throwing down $100,000, right? They know that they're waving cash in front of the faces of these actors, knowing that they'll sell their fucking soul. So after I did some research on the project name was like Starship or something like that. I found an AI company called Topaz Labs, and they primarily worked in the video development, I would say upscaling, so video upscaling. So you take a video from 1950, you'd be able to make the quality look a little better. That's their main program. So it set off bells for me because currently the biggest setback for AI, the biggest difficulty they have is the voices don't fucking sound right every time, dude. Right. So you could make all of those shitty AI movies you see. The reason there's no audio is because they cannot get the voices right. And so what it immediately rang to me, how it rang to me was they want to cast 100 actors to sit there and use their regular speaking voice into a mic, doing call and response, so they can train this model to absolutely make voice actors obsolete. And it's said to use a synthesized voice to make, what is it called? A personal assistant capacity. So even if I'm fucking wrong about those assumptions and on that research, even using it as a voice assistant model, I'll tell a quick anecdotal story before I continue about Siri. So the voice of Siri signed a 10-year NDA and got paid around $10,000. Siri is in millions, tens of
10K? No fucking way. That is insane. That has to be a joke, right? That was literally my 15-second video. Wow. That's wild.
Millions of Apple products. Siri is used globally. And that woman was paid, I think I can look up the actual number, but it was between 10 and 20K. And she could not speak about it for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, it's an early investment. It's a cheap, the thing you're talking about, this gig, 100 people, this is $1 million investment that would be in tens of millions of devices or programs, whatever it is.
And that's the thing is, and ironically, I'm sitting here talking about Siri, I'm talking about 100K. And ultimately, what I decided was there is no monetary value on your likeness. And I will say that to the common person. There should not be a monetary value on your likeness. I understand because I know that $100,000 is life-changing money, and it is for me. It's not for life-changing money for me. But the idea that you would only be compensated for one singular time for usage in perpetuity is insane. So going back to the actual email chain, I sent a response and I said very clearly, I don't want to do this. I don't want to use my voice to train a machine learning model. This is something I'm not comfortable with, and exactly what the voice actor strikes were for.
Right.
So SAG voice actors have been striking for the last 3 years off and on because of this very issue. So this is where it went from like, oh, what a normal day in the office. I'm just telling them I don't want to do this job, to like, what the fuck? Because they respond with, you do realize it's about 100K. Your voice wouldn't even be distinguishable. Blah 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 blah. If you're turning down a high 5-figure to low 6-figure job, then you were probably with the wrong agency. So, and this was a response 2 minutes later. It's not listed in the pictures because I redacted this information, but it was 2 minutes.
My cat is being so cute. That's why I'm leaning over this way.
Between me saying no and them sending that email. 2 minutes.
Wow. Okay,
and
so it struck a nerve.
Yeah. Oh, it didn't. It hit him in the fucking frontal cortex, man. And then the second, I get another email 1 minute after that one. So that meant that both of the agents in the agency were writing the email at the same time. I get another email at the exact same moment saying, if for a buyout of high 5 figures, low 6 figures, you are willing to sell your voice, which is not like your face or your voice with your name attached to it, does not impinge on your earning potential in any way, nor did you call to have a discussion to hear my logic or point of view, logic and reasoning, typical. Anyway, then I'm the wrong agent for you, and you should seek another agent. We should part ways amicably. And then this is where it got even funnier. They said, dude, you're a smart guy. Wrong, No, you're a smart guy. But you are still a smart young guy, and you truly have to learn to pick your battles. I have been nothing but patient since I signed you, and you produced zero materials. Blah, all of that company time. They essentially go on to say that I've been a bad client by not submitting materials like headshots and everything, which is incredible because this isn't a brag. It's more of a conversation. If you have a client that has 230,000 followers on Instagram, however many followers on TikTok, a wonderful voice acting reel, good headshot. If you can't get them an audition, that is not like, I hate to say it, I've been doing this a long time. I know when someone has the accolades / the materials to get cast, or at least auditions.
You're literally making like promo materials regularly.
Yes, I have a very lucrative contract with a voice acting company, with a storytelling company. So obviously there's something wrong with them, not with me. But that's besides the point. They respond this way, and I will say. I did an angry pace where you're just pacing around the house, just looking, just like, what the fuck, man? Because again, dude, this fucking guy.
Oh, they use they he pronouns.
Thrown off by the response, but I took that information and I tried my best to stay as professional as possible. And I'm very well researched in the space of AI as I was part of the strikes. Feeding any amount of myself into an AI model is against my morals. While I may not be recognizable or may have plausible deniability, the last thing I'll do is sacrifice my moral standing for a paycheck. I am under the assumption, because they had sent an NDA, that had I signed the NDA, submitted whatever they wanted for the audition, I would have booked the role immediately. So because when a casting company, just for clarification, when an agency and a casting company have an agreement on a person, there are times when they'll still go through the steps, go through the motions, still call for an audition, still have them come in, and they'll just offer them a job on the spot. So they were just, to me, it seems as though they were just doing the motions. Here's your casting notice, sign this NDA, and I more than likely would have booked it. Because why the fuck else would two 50-year-old men crash out over over a possibility?
They had the built-in expectation that you were going to accept this. The fact that they used "you're a young guy" is very telling that this offer they probably felt was too big for you to refuse.
So when they spoke to me like this and said, you're a young guy, you're a smart guy, I was like, okay, you can shove that $100,000 so far up your ass that you can plant a money tree in your grave. Like, I don't care. But anyway, so that was the whole situation at hand. But ultimately, the reason that I posted that on Twitter, and the reason that, I was not expecting it to get to the 7 million view mark or whatever, especially for Twitter. But the reason I did was because I know tens of actors around me that I could name right now that if I told them they could make $100,000 on a singular job, their eyes would pop out of their heads.
Right.
And I know actors that are to the point of, I may have to go move home to Florida or move back to Virginia or go back overseas because I can't get a work visa because I can't book enough jobs. That would take this in a heartbeat. It's as I said in the thread, it's the lottery mentality. I understand why. Because when you are, I lived in my car for 8 months and lived in a studio apartment with another guy in a fucking 8x8 room for 6 months. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be on that cliff of desperation. I get it. But to assert a value of $100,000 on the future, not only of the industry, but the future of your own fucking work. That is not something that you can die on. That's not something that you can't retire on $100,000.
Yeah. It's
if they were all,
little bit for a little while. Sure. Makes a difference for a lot of people. I mean, especially living in LA, it's not going to go very far. You're not going to buy a house with that or anything. Or pay your mortgage.
You can't make a down payment with $100,000 in LA.
And the company that signed you, your agency, they knew that too. That's why they had the you're a young guy. Oh, this is a poor decision. You're smart. You shouldn't be doing this. But like I said, this is a savings for them. This is just a small investment for not just the agency, but for the company that wanted to do this project with them. Like, that was nothing for them. And they are very aware of it.
Yeah. AI itself is $1 billion fucking industry. This is pennies. This is pennies in the bank for them. They're asking people to sell their soul, sell their likeness, sell their voice, sell who they are. I mean, like, either way, retiring on $100,000 is not something that can happen in LA. And so I digress. But like I said, the messaging behind it was not this moral high ground. It wasn't this scathing review of the people who would take those kinds of jobs. It was more so just messaging of, hey, these are more predatory than you think. these are worse than you think, because these AI companies, I'll reference Fiverr, for instance, right? Fiverr was bought by an AI company, and I think it was called Lovo. And there's a lawsuit that's ongoing with two voice actors who were a part of Fiverr prior to the acquisition of it by Lovo, of the company. And they began feeding the voices, because when you use Fiverr, you upload the audio. If you're a voice actor, you upload the audio to Fiverr and it's saved in their personal servers. They began feeding those recordings into an AI model that they were developing.
Really?
Without the permission of the clients. Yeah. But because when you sign up for Fiverr, it is essentially saying when you sell an audio or you sell a product to another person, Fiverr is essentially buying it and then selling it to the person that is purchasing it from you. It's, even though there's not like a, here Fiverr, take this from me, Fiverr goes, here bud, take this. It is an internal interaction. So because they legally owned the things that were put on the software, or that were put on the website, they were able to freely do that. But there were some minor stipulations, because they also include clauses of like, you can sell rights. Like if I used Fiverr and somebody edited a video of mine, they could relinquish their rights. They could say, I agree that any earnings you make from this video will not be mine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it kind of created a legal dilemma, because it's, how can you give the rights over to the purchaser if you are retaining rights from the purchasee? So that's where the lawsuit is currently happening. But ultimately, it goes back to, it is more predatory than you think. There's no limitation to what they can do with your voice the second you sign that contract.
So cute, my cat. Yes, that's Corn. He's Corn. He wants to play. Oh, look how cute he is. He wants to play. He turns 2 in May, so he's he's a little baby still. He's still a little baby. But yeah, like at the end of the day, look, everybody's entitled to make their choices. Nick has made theirs, and Nick has said, yep, I am not going to work with an AI company. I'm not going to let AI use my likeness. And I completely see why. Because again, it's his voice, it's his identity at the end of the day. And like he said, that's priceless. And we don't know what that company wants to use his voice and likeness for. It could be anything. And again, don't trust companies. I admire the sunshines and rainbow mentality to be like, they would, and they would do worse. Okay, like they would never train me on AI. That's not what they said. I didn't think that company I worked with many, many times would take my voice, train it on AI, and then use it in an ad. But I am very suspicious, and I think that's what happens because that ad sounded way too similar to me for my personal comfort. I didn't think they would do that. But the proof, the proof is in the pudding, and it sounded a little suspect. So I totally get it. Don't send hate to any of the parties involved, especially Nick, right? Love his content. He's a really chill dude. I get the money thing might be a big deal. It's a large amount of money. But if you have the privilege of choice and the privilege to kind of like, hey, look over, you're not like a life or death situation type thing. And then you calculate exactly how much you're selling and giving away. You realize that 100K doesn't cover it.